Streaming from Madison, Wisconsin and Minneapolis, Minnesota. Straight to your personal devices. Available on all major platforms and YouTube. This is the Armchair Analyst Podcast. And here are your hosts, Ace and Johnny.
Welcome to another week and another episode of our podcast, Armchair Analyst. Johnny here, Ace over there, and you know what? I know we were supposed to be in the same room, but darn it all if we didn't fudge it up.
Oh, no, it's all right. We tried, and I know you're going to get into that shortly, but I sort of wanted to cover up the nice little surprise, but I was a little, late in that game, so there it is.
We got our first official decoration, yeah new house. Congrats, it's very nice. All moved in now.
Yes, and thank you to Johnny. Honestly, I owe him kind of a lot for helping me move. I sort of sprung that shit on him, and he wasn't. It worked out, honestly. I got him some dinner or some lunch.
I was gonna say nothing a few beers can't solve. So yeah, that was the dream. That was the plan. Ace moved in this week, so we were gonna go in there, get everything all set up in his brand new podcasting room, his podcast station. But yeah, that's actually going to be my random rant, software compatibility and operating systems. But got a few other things we want to go through. Regional Roundup, we're going to go through some Twins Brewers, highlights and lowlights if you're a Twins fan. And then we're going to go through and just, I don't know, there's a small thing called this NFL draft coming up. So maybe cover the Vikings Packers picks.
Basically kind of important. A holiday. Basically a holiday.
It's a huge production. Like, I understand, like, there's the NFL offseason, but, like, there's really not an off season because like you have like maybe like that month lull after the Super Bowl, but then free agency starts up, then the draft comes into play, then all of a sudden you're into summer camp, OTAs. Mm-hmm. Next thing you know, we're into preseason, and then we have that 17-game schedule that's going to be bestowed upon us this year. So
forgot about that one.
But my thing is, it's like, you know what? I mean, free agency is big for a lot of people, but if your team doesn't sign a free agent, you don't really care, right?
Yeah.
Like it's
you don't have a reason.
It doesn't. No, like you can get excited, like, oh, but no, like everyone was in cap hell. There's like 3 teams that actually could spend money. It was the Pats, the Jags, and the Jets, right?
Yeah,
they already did that, and then now it's like everyone else is just kind of like, well, can we even keep our own players? Like, you're not even looking at other players. So
the fandom's morale just is like sort of plummets if you don't make moves.
Yeah, so then it's like, well, normally you would have the combine, but we're not doing that this year. But we will have the NFL draft coming next week, so we'll cover those picks up for you guys. And then the Badgers head coach has got contract extensions. Very cool. We'll cover that too. And we got to talk about the fights last night. We have to talk
Johnny
about the fights
and I saw that together,
night.
and oh my God, we had the same reactions as Joey Boy Rogan. Joe Rogan. I shouldn't make fun of his name.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say I'm the most dedicated viewer of UFC, but 261 that was a. It was really entertaining, and then we'll set that up with a clip of the week too with Joe.
Yep.
But in the spirit of Aaron moving, I thought it would be nice to kind of go into a similar topic about sports teams leaving and moving onto different teams. Just kind of, I mean, sometimes it's like switching back and forth. You got Rams, LA, St. Louis going back and forth, some cool stuff, and then you have some shady stuff where teams leave in the middle of the night. Looking at you, Baltimore Colts. But then, I mean, if you feel like the room now, it's like, well, there's a few franchises that could possibly be moving in the next couple of years, right?
Yeah.
They've generated interest, shifted ownership. I know Seattle's.
One right here in Minnesota, Seattle.
Allegedly. But yeah, I mean, Seattle's been looking for an NBA team for so long, and now,
we found out.
We'll touch on that a little bit later.
Vancouver as well. We found out.
Yeah, it's hard to remember that the Grizzlies were out there, to be honest. But I don't know. It's really defeating to talk about like software compatibility. But I mean, I'm at the point in my life where I've been working back and forth between Macs and PCs for almost a decade. It's become pretty second nature. Like the first few times I'll mess up my hotkeys. I'll mess up my shortcuts when I first switch back. But after a few messed up Command Shift keys, you figure it out. But
yeah.
I don't know. I guess I wasn't expecting to have as many technical difficulties as we did.
No,
we use this particular software to do video recording and all that kind of stuff, and I was able to pull it onto a brand new computer from my desktop. I thought it'd be easy peasy lemon squeezy, but Old MacBook Pro over there said no.
Yeah.
And
I'm solely a Mac guy now too, which is like the worst part. So we need to like weigh this in our decision for choosing a podcast platform too, potentially. But
yeah, it's hard for me to wrap my head around it, just because you've had it's these two. Like, there's nothing in between.
Yeah.
Yes, Linux is a thing, but like these are the two operating systems. Apple OS and Windows. Like, it's very difficult for someone to go back and forth with realistic expectations that you're going to be able to do the same job with a different machine with a different OS. And it's just like, it's just 2021. We're playing cross-platform. PlayStations, PCs,
oh my God.
and
Easily.
Xboxes are all playing together. Why can we not have Apple OS and Windows talk to each other right now? Like, it's
security.
Boom!
Security. And Bill Gates. They don't like Bill Gates, apparently, and vice versa.
Man. Yeah, so that was really frustrating. Like I said, we really wanted to do that with you guys. We actually put off meeting up just so that Aaron could get into his house and all that good stuff, but didn't work out. We'll try again. We'll be smarter and less dumb next time. Hopefully.
Hey, it was still a fun weekend, and I'm glad you came, honestly. So
yeah, it was a good time. What was not so good a time was probably watching the Twins this weekend, huh?
No. I mean, thankfully we didn't watch much of them. But they're on a struggle train right now. 7-13. They've lost, I think, 11 of their last 13 games. So after starting 5-2, they've got 7 or 2-11. Yeah, 2, whatever that is. 2-11. COVID issues last week. Andrelton Simmons came down with it. Kevin Garlick came down with it, which delayed the series, or basically it canceled the Anaheim series over the weekend. And it delayed the A's series last Monday, which was frustrating. And it's not like we're decimated with injuries, sort of like kind of the Brewers situation with Yelich, and I like how you call him Locaine. Locaine!
That's his nickname.
That's
his nickname.
All right. Yeah, I guess. True. So not really injuries. It's just, I mean, unfortunately, we kind of know the issue. It's pitching. It's always, sadly, it's pitching. And some games we're going to win 11-2 or 11-10. We might lose that way too, but for the most part, we're not consistent pitching, which is frustrating. And I think inevitably it leaves the players, like, we're having hell of a season from Byron Buxton finally. Dude's showing out to be an MVP. He's the fastest player in MLB. Easily the fastest player, and probably the best defensive center fielder, even over your boy Locaine.
Wow.
Oh, he's won a few Gold Gloves. But
I guess you got to take solace in something, huh?
Yeah. It's tough right now.
Hey, man, we got a lot of baseball coming up.
Correct, yeah.
But if we were just to end the season right now, atop the NL Central lie the Milwaukee Brewers. And I know that we touched on this. Well, you touched on this. My expectations going into the season, not a whole lot. I mean, I think preseason power rankings had them in the low 20s, maybe. So just anything above that, obviously, I was going to be ecstatic. The pitching has been by far and away the best thing about this team. Absolutely lights out performance today by Woodruff again. Dueling Arrieta. I mean, literally, it was 1-0 Brewers until the 9th. Like, it was.
I love to see those pitchers late in the game.
Yeah. So that's exciting. Less exciting. MRI came back negative for structural damage for Yelich, but I mean, he hasn't played in 2 full weeks now. Not really any clear path for his return. Mm-hmm. Lorenzo Cain still on the DL, so it's kind of, I don't know, it's a double-edged sword. Like, you're really excited because, hey, like, the team's still putting together wins, this early in the year. I mean, 13 wins this early, that's really, no one could really predict that we would have been there, especially without Yelich, without Lorenzo Cain. Yeah. 2 of our top 4 in the batting order out, former MVP not being part of the offense, and we're still scoring runs. Not at will, but pretty efficiently,
and it's timely. So, it's more timely, but still, that's a huge stat that people, the nerds in baseball like to follow as well. Is runs in scoring position, cashing in, baby.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like there was a couple innings that kind of got away from them, but at the same time they cashed in, in the 9th. And it is. I will say, speaking of free agency, it's nice when your team goes after other players, makes trades like you should be doing. But picking up Colton Wong was probably the biggest thing. Like, because that not only do you have that Gold Glove in the outfield, but he had 7 hits this weekend. I mean,
wow.
he's on a good streak, and when players get going like that early on, it's so beneficial, especially when you're playing against a team that has really good bullpen. So pumped about that, really excited about that. I guess if we're gonna keep diving into this regional roundup here, Paul Chris and Greg Gard received contract extensions for the Badgers this last week. So nothing too surprising there, but it's always nice to see that they're willing to commit to the leadership there. So I mean that's something that I guess I didn't know it was on the docket, but I mean it's good to hear, I guess.
Yeah.
It's not really something you want to deal with, during an actual season. So
well, they have clauses too, maybe, because weren't they already signed long-term anyways, or whatever the case?
Yeah, I don't think it was ever really in question, so I think maybe there's some restructuring maybe as well as the extension, just because I know that the school has had, 2020 with COVID was terrible, so
financially,
I'm sure they had to, and they probably had to make some financial sacrifices, but hey, they'll be with us for at least a few more years, so that's cool.
I like stability. Oh, yeah. Go. Speaking of stability.
Draft time.
Yes,
Draft time.
Should we start with the Packers? Let's start with the Pack.
You want to do the Pack?
Are they going to take a QB in the first round again this year?
I will strike you. I will strike you on air. I literally know where you live.
No, lightning will strike inside a building if this happens and just wipe out Goodell.
Gosh. So, I mean, okay, so the Packers have 10 picks. Historically, the first-round pick has not gone very well for them. Gutekunst has traded up all 3 drafts he's participated in to nab their guy. So there are some interesting scenarios that we've seen play out in some mocks. Mm-hmm. Do I think that that's going to happen? Probably not. Would it be cool? Of course it would. All of these hypothetical scenarios where we nab a top defensive player, of course that would be exciting. Of course that would be what I want. Is it realistic? Definitely not. I mean, but the thing is, I feel like there's enough needs on the team to be okay with trading down out of the first, and just this is a very deep draft for the positions that we need. I mean, the biggest being probably interior defensive lineman, which is just that same need from last year. That hasn't changed from last year.
I would say that's Vikings.
We're definitely going to need another cornerback.
Yeah.
I mean, Kevin King was brought back, but you can't have him starting. You saw what he does as a starter. That's not what we want. And we're going to need somebody. We're going to need to replace an interior lineman, too, on offense. So,
Lindsley.
Yeah, so luckily this is a very deep draft in those positions, and also it's not terrible either for wide receivers, actually.
No,
a little more top heavy than most years, but a lot of options. I don't know. They do so well in the middle rounds. All of their franchise big players, aside from Rodgers, have been later round picks. So it's I can't get super excited to look at the top talent, because there's a very good chance we're not going to get any of that. I did mention that Rashard Bateman was mentioned in a lot of mock drafts, wide receiver out of Minnesota. He's probably going to be there, but I don't think that they want to take him at the end of the first. I don't really think that I don't think there's going to be an offensive lineman or cornerback that's going to be available, so they're probably going to have to look. Yeah. I know there's a lot of scenarios for us trading up to get Christian Barmore to the defensive tackle at Alabama, but you're going to have to trade up into the teens at least at the minimum. So I don't know. There's a lot of options. I'm excited just because they have been really good in the middle rounds, and this is a very deep draft in the positions of need. So I don't know. I'm pretty excited. The only thing that would really piss me off, as you said, would be picking something that completely superfluous that seems like it wouldn't help the team at all. I don't care about Jordan Love. He's not playing. He didn't play last year. He's probably not going to play, barring injury, knock on wood, unless Rodgers gets hurt. So I don't really care about that pick. It's an investment, I'm sure. Kind of like Rashawn Gary. You drafted him, he didn't do anything his rookie year, but now he's starting to kind of progress. If he can get developed, that's great. But as far as I'm concerned, and every other person at roots for Green Bay, it's been win now scenario for a few years now. Yeah, drafting and developing is great, but Rodgers' window, it's not even a window now. It's like a tiny little sliver of light coming through the door.
It's funny how disconnected it seems. Obviously, there's a lot of ownership groups that are disconnected with the fan base, but it could not be more apparent and it's not just it's a decade. You know, how long ago did he win the Super Bowl where you're like, okay, now we need to start building around him?
Well, and that's the thing. It's like when he's that young, you have time to draft and develop. Like you can pick up players and start working them and getting them to reach their potential for a couple seasons, and then start making another run for it.
And
I know that there was a lot of elder statesmen on that Super Bowl team too. Like, so I get that they're like with Jordan Love and drafting, you know, the running backs and starting to form like a new offensive core. Like I get that, but the point is not to just always be a contender. The whole goal is to get those banners, those Super Bowl things. Those kind of cool. The fans like them. I don't know. I feel like the rest of the NFL kind of strives for that goal. So I feel like the Green Bay should be going that direction too. This like last year, like I've said this so many times. Last year was like the best chance that they had, right? Like it was at home, NFC Championship. Favorable weather, like there was nothing really holding them back aside from themselves, and it didn't happen. So I don't know. The draft, this year I'm just more disconnecting myself because I get too infatuated with specific players that I've seen throughout the season, and I get really excited at the prospect of the Packers drafting them, and then they don't draft them, and then I get infuriated and enraged, and I pout for the.
Who do you want them to take then? I gotta know who you want them to take first round.
I honestly won't even pick like a name. I just want them to fill positions of need. I don't care.
Yeah, that's fair. You said that earlier.
It's such a good draft, and so was last year. Like there's so much potential in this draft, and I literally just draft those positions. I don't care who the name is as long as they don't overreach too much. Offensive lineman, defensive lineman, cornerback, wide receiver. That's it.
Yep.
Just get all of those. You have 10 picks. Get 2 of each and then a couple others.
I 100%
don't care.
agree. I'm in the same boat with the Vikings. It's like a lot of people have us pick an offensive line first round, and I know that's sort of deep, but I would go if we can get an interior lineman, defensive lineman, like you said, first, or sort of what you alluded to for the Packers. I would absolutely love that because one of those two, for sure, for us is the biggest need. It's one of those two. But a lot of people will just say the offensive line because we moved on from Reef. We cut Reef, which means we got a second-year player, Cleveland, that's probably moving over to left tackle unless they keep him at right. So you're going to love this. I happened to look at our draft picks the other day, and I noticed a number in the 6th round that seemed a little peculiar. 199. Do you know who got drafted 199th? In the 6th round in 2000 by chance. He's still playing. He's a quarterback. Tom Brady.
No.
We're getting a Hall of Fame player at that pick. I don't know who it's going to be, what position. I don't care. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. We're like this. I'm so happy now that we got that pick. The Vikings have just made my day. That's the only thing. I guess the reason I'm sort of saying that is partly because I'm like we sort of squabbled in a little bit of some free agent signings, We made some moves, cut some guys, which I wasn't particularly...
Patrick Peterson!
Yeah. I mean, no, I like Peterson, but it's like we knew we were going to get rid of Reef and a handful of other guys. But I'm sort of being facetious in that sense. But hey, who knows? He could end up being a Hall of Famer. 6th round, 199, same as Brady. I'll take that. So, overall, like you said, we need to go
blind optimism.
We need to go offensive line in any draft, any best player available on the defensive end or defensive side, I should say. We don't really particularly need corners, although Gladney's in some hot water still, obviously, like we talked about. So,
that's right,
dude. And I thought about this with the changeover on the defensive coordinator side and even offensive coordinator. It's like Zimmer still has his say, and he loves cornerbacks. That's like, Mark Davis and speed for the Raiders or Jerry Jones and just freaking anybody. It's the same way with Zimmer.
You got to get good ones, though. You can't just draft CBs. You got to get ones that can actually play in the NFL.
Come on. Rhodes was good. So was...
Gone. Not on the team.
Yeah. So, yeah. I think your point
The nice thing about the draft is, like, it's literally Forrest Gump, right? It's a box of chocolates. You literally don't know what you're going to get. You could draft the greatest prospect of all time. Like, I don't want to jinx the guy, but, I mean, maybe Trevor Lawrence, somehow one of the greatest highly touted prospects ever. just is absolutely awful. Like, just cannot get it together.
Yep.
You know, like, not that you ever want to see that, but, like, it's a possibility. Like, nothing is for sure. Nothing is certain.
One of those 5, or at least 2 of those, are not going to pan out for the quarterbacks. If you're looking there, it's just
Mac Jones, yeah.
Fields, Lance, Wilson, and whatever. Lawrence.
Wilson probably will be the other one, but no, that's what makes it exciting. That's why people get excited for the draft, because you don't know what's happening. You know, you can study these guys for years, and one freak accident, and all of a sudden, ooh, speaking of freak accidents, maybe it's time to get a little UFC, huh? All right, I think that's everything we got. So let's play that clip to kind of set things up. So we're not gonna share. If you watch the fights, though, we're not gonna share
the injury.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say the injury. I'm not gonna get into it, but yeah.
It was Chris Weidman versus Uriah Hall in one of the first going into the main bout.
Yeah, so this is it took a while for them to gather Weidman off the floor of the octagon, but once they did, Joe Rogan had a word with him. So let's listen to what he had to say.
Due to injury, the winner is by TKO Uriah Hall. I got nothing but respect for Chris Weidman. He's truly one of the best. It is a crazy story that he was the first man I fought that defeated me, that introduced me to fear. I didn't know what fear was. I was scared of wrestling. And during that time, you know, we went different paths. He was the first one, defeated Anderson. I was the last. And it's just crazy how we ended up here again. I mean, I wanted to, you know, put out a great performance, but man, I feel so bad for him. I hope he's okay. I wish his family well, if you guys are watching. It's a sucky part of this sport. It's a hurt business. And believe me, they don't see the fight outside the octagon, but I got nothing bad to say about him, and I hope he recovers. And hey, whatever rank I am in the future, if he gets well, I owe him this fight, and I hope he can come back from it. You're still one of the best, Chris.
Well said, sir. Thank you very much. Uriah Hall, ladies and gentlemen.
That was such an intense moment. Like right after his injury, the camera just focused on Hall for probably 6 minutes while they tended to him. So
they couldn't.
A very emotional. I mean, I felt like a lot of the fights were just so much more intense, but this one in particular, with the ironic twist of
that was right after another fight before that ended because of a knee or a nerve issue.
He wasn't able to support his body and his one of his legs. So I don't know. It's nice to see that there's still I know that all the pre-fight stuff is all the intimidation and stuff, but a lot of trash talking. But this the sign of humility. They're still people. They him speaking out and giving prayers to his family and stuff that's. It's messed up to see these kind of things happen, but. Especially that early too. That's.
Oh my god.
Seconds. Still got the heebie-jeebies. Yeah, it was 17 seconds
into
the match. But
looking back on last night, what memory comes to you first, outside of maybe that one?
Positive memory?
Yeah.
Honestly, probably Rose. I think Rose reclaiming the belt was probably the biggest.
That left leg kick was nasty.
Yeah, I there was a lot of really quick matches here, but I don't know. Anthony Smith and Jimmy Crute was pretty intense too. That was the dead leg one too.
Yeah.
But just because I don't know. That one was a little more unpredictable. That was pretty nice just seeing Smith get that. But probably Rose reclaiming the belt had to be the best. I had actually... You kind of talked me into rooting for Jorge a little bit. But it's... There was just no way. He wasn't... There was no chance. It's... the fact that he made it through the first round was very surprising. If I'm being completely honest.
It was a ground and pound game plan a little by Usman.
You saw some really textbook matches though.
Yeah.
Randy Brown probably had the cleanest knockout. some of the cleanest form, like the best, like that rear naked choke to get him to tap, like unreal.
Look at us turning the leaf over. No.
So that was another thing too. Like we hadn't talked a lot of UFC. That was an incredibly good card. We were together. May have partaken in a few too many alcoholic beverages, but I don't know. It's just good to talk about that stuff. People are interested in it, and that was kind of like a unifying moment. Like when you see someone literally shatter their leg, like it was just like,
and fans back in the stands. Too.
Yeah, so that was another thing too. Like that, this was the first sporting event I've seen in over a calendar year that had like a full support of fans. Like just hearing that crowd, I think that made it a lot more intense too. And I think the fighters played up. They played up to another level, right? Easily. Like when you're playing with nobody, like I don't know, I can't imagine that you can get as hype because that's half of the pay-per-view is. It's just hype. Right? Like the actual fights last just mere minutes. You know, so just having the fans there, keeping everything going.
Yeah.
And like just hearing their reactions. Like it makes the commentators, it makes the fighters, like it makes everything a lot more important to them and the more exciting. So that was awesome to see.
They are unable to hear us scream at our houses, that's for sure.
Right?
Screaming and
although
yelling,
we got pretty excited about it.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, so that was cool. I do want you're going to take me back in history, right? You're going to take me back in history.
Yeah.
The Twins weren't always around. The Brewers weren't always around. Hell, they had to acquire
the Los Angeles
teams.
Lakers weren't even around.
Oh, you mean the Minneapolis Lakers?
Yes. What about your Milwaukee Brewers?
Braves?
Or the Bucks? Oh, no.
Yeah. So this is kind of something that we've been talking about for a little bit. Obviously with the new ownership of the T-Wolves, the young rookie stud not even knowing who the owner is, like multiple cities wanting NBA teams. You see kind of a little bit of a theme developing, and I don't know, Ace. What are your thoughts here, man?
Well, first off, I mean, when you look at, if you want to start there, perhaps just look at the current state of things. There's a lot that's going on with, NBA basketball trying to vie for teams, or the cities, I should say. San Antonio, we haven't really talked about as much as Seattle and perhaps Vancouver. But that, I think the more urban areas are really trying to vie in, or at least you're seeing places that are noticing growth in their cities. Indianapolis, Minnesota, even recently with the Minnesota United Soccer officially becoming part of the MLS. Miami. It's just like Miami, we already knew was huge, but they still don't have a soccer team. So it's like little pockets are starting to realize that, we're noticing population growth in the urban areas. Let's kind of take advantage of that, and either bring new teams in, whatever the case may be. And it's funny because I did the research and I'm looking around like at all the different frickin' teams that came to Minnesota, or even the franchise that started here, and Wisconsin had 3 so far, which is, I think Wisconsin has to be the fewest, if I had to guess. The fewest?
Yeah, I think it's just because it's the state in general is just a smaller market. It's less attractive to owners, and I mean, but
that's fair.
Yeah, and I mean the Packers aren't ever going to go anywhere, so I mean that's not really a thing.
Yeah.
The Brewers are pretty ingratiated within the community, and the Bucks have kind of cemented their place in. I mean, they wouldn't have built Fiserv and redeveloped that entire part of downtown if they weren't going to commit to the Bucks. So, not necessarily worried about them, but I mean, it happens, man. Like it doesn't have to be a logical thing. Like the North Stars moving to Dallas, like that wasn't any. I mean, there are still people in my family
that was horrible
that are very pissed off about that. They're very mad about it. They are very upset, but
Mike
especially
Modano, he was like a heartthrob for that team, for the North Stars. Oh my God, dated celebrities. This was in Minneapolis at the time. Oh my Lord.
Yeah, but it just feels like it's not really sport specific. I think that's just it seems like no sport is immune, and even if you've been performing well, it doesn't really. It's not indicative of how the franchise is going to be considering offers in other cities. So I don't know. It's just, for me, it's always been kind of perplexing. Like, if you've been a fan, like, let's say you've rooted for the Vancouver Grizzlies since inception, and then they just get up and move.
Yeah.
I I don't know. Like, if you're rooting for a team in Canada, in Vancouver, how are you going to be able to back them in Memphis? Like, if it's the same players, I mean, maybe, but
or even
I feel like your allegiance is broken to the team. I feel
or to the point with the Baltimore Colts kind of leaving so abruptly and crap.
So
even the Rams.
That was my thing
LA.
too, because my dad was born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland, so he grew up watching Johnny U, you know, and then all of a sudden they're just gone, and it's like,
how do you explain it?
Most people were pretty enraged at that, so, you know, it's not like you're gonna, like, okay, go Indy, I guess, but
yeah. And
then they just didn't have a football team for a long time, so then the Ravens come along, and it's like, well, do you go along with the Ravens, or, like, I don't know, but
is he a fan of them now? Does he root for football?
I would say I think we're both casual fans, just because we do have a lot of family in that area. And, you know, they've been playing each other, you know, every 4 years, so we typically go. I've been to the last 2 times that they played.
Okay.
So in 8 years, I've been to 2 games, and then I believe they played this year as well in Baltimore, so I'll probably be at that game too. So,
okay.
It's also, I guess, kind of, you could branch this out into just, like, you know, team allegiances. Like, how do you pick what team you root for? How do you pick what team that you not even root, like, maybe you just follow, like, you just pay attention, you just generally keep up with what they're doing.
I lose trust quick. Like, if you do something to me, you're not getting that trust. You know, that's sort of my mentality. So, like, if the Timber, like, I'm on that whole train right now, just get the Wolves out of town kind of thing, because their owner, even with the new ownership group, it's like, they've wasted so much in the city kind of thing. I just don't really want them back. That's sort of my mindset.
Would you say that's a popular opinion that a lot of Minnesotans have? Or do you think you're kind of an anomaly?
Because I have a couple friends that still are, like, avid sports watchers in general, and they'll really follow the Wolves. They had season tickets up until a little bit ago, I think. But honestly, I think I'm probably the minority. I frankly, I don't think a lot of people would want to see a team or an event space. They probably don't care about I think they want the event space there more than anything, if that makes sense. Maybe it's that issue.
And that's totally possible, too. If the team leaves, it's not like that's going to go away. There's going to be enough to support it. Now, especially with everything that was backlogged from last year being pushed to this year. So, I mean, that shouldn't be a big thing. But the teams that are doing this, like, to, like, a serial basis, like, it's literally like Oakland, LA, like St. Louis, they've all been in a part of this, like, circle of just like, nah, we don't want the franchise. Nah, you can take it back. Like, just volleying it back and forth. Like,
yeah.
Well, I mean, the Hornets, they got volleyed around, changed. They became Pelicans for a while, and Bobcats for a wee moment. God, like, it's very confusing to me that you can make the big, huge, because it's like, it's not just moving a team, right, and having players play somewhere else. There's the infrastructure to support the team. Yep. There's all the branding and marketing assets that go into it. There's all the production value, because now, well, you didn't have a team covering NBA. Now you need a team covering. It's all of this stuff, and it's just like, you can't even make it last a few years, and you kick it right, you kick it out again. Like, I there's so much that goes into this. It blows my mind that, like, a franchise. This is obviously, I'm a Packer fan, so I don't know any different. They haven't gone anywhere.
We are loyal. Correct. I think in the Midwest too, we're a lot loyal. We're a lot more loyal.
Yeah, well, we're sheep. We're slowed down by cheese curds and beer, so we're a little bit slower and dumber. But generally speaking, yes, I would say. So take perfect example. A lot of people that live in LA are transplants. Not very people in LA were born or like second or third generation Californians. So most of the people that I interacted with, and even typically when I'm traveling, like, I'll wear some sort of sports paraphernalia, and then, like, I'll wear, like, a Packer jersey, and I'll just have people like, hey, go Pack, go. Like, in LA, like, everyone's got a different jersey on. Everyone's got a different hat. Like, it's sure the Dodgers won, so there's, like, an incredible amount of bandwagoning going on whenever they're hot, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And now, I mean, the Lakers are permanently there.
Correct, yeah. And they're going to win again.
But by and large, I think that most people are pretty divided. Like, they don't care as much, right? Like, they're not as invested in it. I think Miami, when you brought that up, like that reminded me, like you remember when the Heat were like in the finals and they were losing. I can't remember who. I think it had to be like the Mavs probably. They were down big. Maybe it was the play. I don't think it was the finals. I think it was like maybe the playoffs. Okay. But they were down big, and then the fans just left. A bunch of people, thousands of people just. I swear to God, Google it. It's the funniest thing. Thousands of people left while the Heat were losing, and then I think it was the Wade Bosch LeBron trio. And they started to come back, and they came back a little more, like third quarter, fourth. They're coming back. They're within like 4 points. All the fans are trying to get back into the arena. They all had left. Like they don't care. Like you've seen the Marlins. The Marlins won. They won the pennant, and like they still couldn't get fans in the freaking seats.
No,
like, the Dolphins have hot tubs in their suites.
The Jaguars
in their box suites. Well, the Jaguars have like the infinity pools.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. But the Dolphins' new stadium has all these beautiful things, and they have all these attractions, but they can't get fans in, even when they played well this year. I mean, obviously there's no seats in the stands, but like, I don't know. It feels like they're doing all this auxiliary stuff as opposed to just embrace the brand, make the team competitive, and I don't know. It's got to be pretty hard though, right? Like a team that's been incredibly pedestrian just for a long stretch of time, just to keep everyone engaged and involved. Like you're not going to have the kind of like season ticket waiting list that the Packers do, where you have to wait like your lifetime to get tickets. Like the Miami's not going to have that problem, but also they're not in danger of leaving because they just have a beautiful stadium made for them. So
I think one thing to keep an eye out for, and I wanted to bring this up before, was the LA Chargers. That I love. Like I think they're going to be a really freaking good team, especially with Lindsey signing there. Center. That's something I wanted to bring up for that. Like losing him, going to the Chargers was so perfect for Herbert, I think. And like that's one franchise that nobody in San Diego, it seems like consensus, cares anymore. Like they completely lost their fan base. But the thing is, they're going to be talented as long as you saw what Herbert did. If he can just follow that up, they're going to be exciting and fun to watch.
Yeah.
But they're also, I just realized they're in the same division as Pat Mahomes. So.
And don't forget Derek the Goat Carr as well. So.
Who, David? 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 No.
So I don't know. I mean, that's another thing too. Like the Chargers, when they played at that like mini stadium before COVID, like I don't know. You don't need two teams. No one cares about one team.
Yep.
Like they built SoFi Stadium for the Rams. Obviously, they weren't able to really do anything with it because you have this brand new unveiling of this $1 billion+ facility, and then you can't even have people in it. Because California has been locked down since the beginning, and they've been so there was no chance of any fan attendance. But I don't know. I just kind of want to talk about it a little bit. Do you have so other than the Timberwolves, are there any other teams on your radar in your mind? Any sport, non-specific, any sport that might, any team that might leave for another city, do you think, aside from the T-Wolves?
Oh my gosh. Man, putting me on the spot. I have no clue what teams come to mind. I'm trying to think of across the sports. I can't see MLB. I could see an NBA team or another NFL team potentially. And I mean, MLS. I don't know. That's a really good question. There's some franchises or some cities we've talked about, like San Antonio, that could use either an NBA or they've talked about an NFL team. So I don't know. But the thing is, how many teams are in the NFL? Is there an
32.
even number now? Yeah. Okay. So they can't really. They'd have to reload.
Well, no, they had 31 before the Texans were brought in. So I mean, they had an odd number for a while.
I don't know if they create a new team, but I have no idea what team would move next.
I don't think they create a new team.
No.
I don't think so. But it's weird. Like the teams that like LA right now, they have the Lakers, Clippers, Dodgers.
Oh my God,
I mean, you have two large colleges. You have USC and UCLA
Anaheim
there.
Ducks, which technically are still
they
close.
have Ducks, Angels, Galaxy, Rams, Chargers, Kings, I think. Did I say that? Technically, the Sparks. LA Sparks, man. Come on now. Like, so I don't know. I just don't understand how that. And, like, Florida has 3 NFL teams. 2 NHL in Florida. Come on, I don't know.
Nothing.
There's a lot of just weird stuff in the sporting world. It's like we need like a redistribution. Like, does LA need 13, 14 teams? Probably not.
Yeah,
give one to Vancouver again. Like, come on, let's give Seattle one. Like, the Kings, really, they've been dead for.
You're gonna run out.
Chris Webber and Vlade Divac left, and the Kings haven't done anything. Come on, send them to Vancouver.
Hey, hold up. The Kings. That's a great call. The Kings could move. That would be a good one. I could see the Kings.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, typically, we at least have like some rumors. Like, that we've had so many teams move in the last few years. I feel like there's no more rumors. Like, we knew that the Raiders were going to Las Vegas. We knew that the Chargers were dipping. Mm-hmm. We knew that the Rams were heading back to LA.
Yeah.
You know, you hear these rumors, and then like all of a sudden they just come into being, right? But now I don't hear anything now. I don't know. I'll put my ear to the ground and see if we can muster.
Hey.
See if we can get any.
Me too.
Get that
we got
rumor mill.
sources. You got sources. We all got sources.
None of them good. None of them good.
Hey, a source is a source is a source.
A source is a source is a source. You are correct. All right. That is our show this week. Thank you all so much for listening. Again, apologies we do not have the dynamic podcasting studio set up for our one-on-one time for our show this week. But we do appreciate everybody listening. Don't care how you listen as long as you do. Johnny, Ace, and we are out. Thanks, guys.
That's the show for this week. Check out Armchair Analyst on Twitter at AA Podcasts, on YouTube, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows. If this wasn't enough, be sure to check out armchairpodcast.com for more. See you next week.